Hello everyone, this is Fahad Shah, editor of the Kashmirwala, and today we're joined by former Chief Minister Mr. Umar Abdullah, and who's also the important member of the People's Alliance for Gupkar Declaration, and they recently met the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and we'll be discussing various issues. Hello, sir. So, from the corridors of the power to the detention center, how much has Umar Abdullah changed?
Well, all experiences in life change a person. Perhaps unexpected events change a person more. I had never thought that what happened on the 5th of August 2019 would be experienced by any of us. And I'm not talking as an individual what happened to me. I'm talking in the wider context of what happened to Jammu and Kashmir. So obviously, these sort of events, they change a person.
Had you ever imagined that, being from the powerful political family, the Abdullah family of Jammu and Kashmir, that you would ever be detained like this?
Well, there's always the possibility. Politics in India is not immune to these sort of things. We've seen it in various states that rivalries sometimes go beyond what is acceptable. We've seen it in Tamil Nadu, we've seen it in Punjab, we've seen it in various places. So it was always a possibility that political detentions may take place as a result of political rivalries here. But to be detained and the justification for my detention being that I was able to mobilize voters to come out and vote in the face of a boycott, that, I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect.
So, in the last few years, you have met the Prime Minister twice. One was just ahead of 5th of August, and then recently you just met him again. What is your reflection of Narendra Modi?
He's the Prime Minister of the country. At the end of the day, whatever we have to do, you have to sort of have some sort of communication with the government of the day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister, but he's also not a Prime Minister who is unaware of ground realities. It's not like he painted a rosy picture for us in our recent meeting in Delhi. He was quite open in admitting that Jammu and Kashmir is very far from an ideal relationship with the rest of India. He used the words Dil ki duri or Dilli se duri, which means that Jammu and Kashmir is not only distant from Delhi in terms of politics or administration, but even the hearts and minds that need to be connected are not connected. So I think the fact that the Prime Minister is able to see ground realities and then is willing to talk about it, I think is a good thing. If the Prime Minister had lived in denial and believed that everything is good and there is no need for any improvement in Jammu and Kashmir, then I think that would have been deeply problematic.
Are you saying that during the meeting it felt that the Prime Minister believed that the aim due to which that the August 5th decision was taken was not fulfilled?
Look, I don't want to put words in the mouth of the Prime Minister, but clearly if today, almost 2 years after 5th August 2019, the Prime Minister says Dilli se duri or Dil ki duri, then that would suggest something. And the fact is that very many participants in that meeting made this point to the Prime Minister, and not just leaders who are from Kashmir. Even some of the leaders from Jammu made the point that there is a long way to go to rebuild trust and confidence amongst the people, and to reduce the trust deficit that is there.
Well, do you consider August 5th decision as a betrayal, or you just think now it was part of politics of the BJP?
No, it wasn't part of politics. Of course, I mean, sovereign commitments made by the Union of India with the people of Jammu and Kashmir were done away with. the terms under which Jammu and Kashmir acceded to the Union of India were not the gift of Jawaharlal Nehru as an individual or the Congress party as a party. They were part of a sovereign commitment between the Union of India and the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And therefore, they were above politics. We also believe that legally and constitutionally, there was really no way to do what was done on the 5th of August 2019. And this was even endorsed in the meeting by Muzaffar Beg Saab, who said that in spite of the fact that he was pressing for other solutions, he admitted as much that the revocation of Article 370 as done on the 5th of August was not legal.
So you have, before this also, you have worked with two other prime ministers, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh. How different do you find Narendra Modi as the prime
different
minister?
Prime ministers are different. I mean, they're different individuals. It's like asking somebody here to compare the various chief ministers. My father, Mufti Saab, Mehbooba, Mufti Saiba and myself. Different people, they sort of govern differently, they think differently. And I think one of the crucial differences that is there that cannot be sort of ignored is the fact that Prime Minister Modi is the first Prime Minister with a solid majority of his own after Rajiv Gandhi in '84. So obviously these changes or these differences have to be factored in.
Well, Government of India hasn't, guaranteed that the statehood will be returned just now before the elections, as the PAGD has been demanding. So, do you see how difficult do you see this fight to get the statehood?
Well, it's obviously
are you prepared for it?
It's a fight that we'll have to wage, because while we're sort of going ahead with our struggle for the wider cause, which, as we have made very clear, is possibly a longer one, to have 5th August 2019 overturned. But in the meantime, there are other promises that have been made by the centre that we want kept, and we want kept sooner rather than later. So the promise of return to statehood and full statehood is one that we would like to see fulfilled, and before the assembly elections. As we will go by the word of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, both in Parliament and outside, that they are committed to restoring statehood to Jammu and Kashmir. So if they want to have assembly elections, then why have elections in a UT? Restore statehood to Jammu and Kashmir and then have elections, and then we'll see what happens.
But, you said that you won't contest elections under a union territory. Will NC contest elections if you are not contesting personally?
Look, my personal decision has no bearing on the party. This is not a dictatorship.
But wouldn't it look like a political gimmick?
No, one individual does not determine party policy. And this is a mistake some of my colleagues have made, that they believe that their single opinion should be the opinion that's binding on the national conference. We are a democratic party, and at the appropriate time, as and when elections are announced, the circumstances that prevail at that time will be discussed, and the party will take a view. But why should it be a gimmick? I don't want to fight elections. I have no desire I'm not power hungry. I believe that there are wider and bigger battles that need to be fought. And for the time being, I'm not interested in contesting elections here. And let it be. And in that respect, there's very little difference between us and the PDP. If public statements, I haven't spoken to her about this, nor has she mentioned it in any conversation, but recent statements of Mehbooba Mufti Saiba would suggest that she, even though her party will contest, she won't. So I think individuals should be free to take their own decisions.
At times in the past 1 year, there are different statements have come from certain individuals or the party members of NC. Are those their personal opinions, or is there some kind of difference within the party?
Unless you get a statement from the national conference emanating from our head office in Srinagar or our office in Jammu, opinions are personal opinions. I am the vice president of the national conference, but I do not speak for the entire party unless I'm authorized to speak. So when I tell you that I'm not contesting elections, I'm not telling you the party will not contest. I'm telling you that I, as an individual, will not. I don't speak for the party. And as and when I'm authorized to speak, I will. And therefore, individuals from time to time do share their opinions, and those have to be taken purely as personal opinion.
But if tomorrow, let's say that statehood is returned and there are elections, is there a situation where PhD parties would come as an alliance?
Look, I can't speak for the PhD.
But I'm
not an office bearer of the PhD. The meetings I attend of the PhD, I attend purely in my capacity as Vice President of the National Conference. Decisions of the PhD will have to be taken by the chairman, the vice chairperson, and others who are office bearers.
Your personal opinion. Do you think that this fight for the statehood or any right should be like individualistic at the party level, or it should be a joint effort?
Well, I mean, if I didn't feel it should be a joint effort, then we wouldn't be part of the PhD. We believe that this fight we must wage together to the best of our collective abilities, and that is what we are trying to do. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can predict what the future will hold for any of us, but we are doing our best to continue to talk from one platform, and we will continue to do that.
There's a lot that has happened in 2 years. Like, you were detained for months separately, and there was a detention. There were other leaders who were detained. Has this thought ever come to you in your mind in these years that you would quit politics?
I'm only human. How would it be possible for that thought not to cross my mind? Having seen what Jammu and Kashmir went through, having seen what individually was done to so many of my colleagues and other political personalities here, having seen what has been done even after that, doubt is a very human emotion to have, and I'm not immune to human emotions. So I will not lie to you and tell you that that thought has not crossed my mind. Of course it has, sometimes with more frequency than with others. But then I also have to tell myself that, look, I can't leave the field empty for those people who are inimically disposed towards Jammu and Kashmir. I don't want to leave the field for those who would like to further dismember J&K, or who would like the people of Jammu and Kashmir to live in the current state of misery that they're living. And some fights are more important than the individual.
You're not contesting elections, let us say, for a certain reason of being at a UT, and you have spoken bitterly about New Delhi. So some people would say, how different are you than the Hurriyat at the current time?
Well, let me just put it this way. My decision not to fight elections will never impact your decision to go out and vote. I will never tell you that, Fahad, I don't believe you should vote. In fact, I will not come and tell you actively that you should boycott the elections. I will only tell you that it is my individual opinion not to fight. But come polling day, I will go to my polling booth and I will cast my vote
the difference
for my party. So that's a huge difference. My own decision not to participate in elections has no bearing on my colleagues. I will never tell my colleagues that they should not fight. And I will never tell the voters of Jammu and Kashmir that they should not vote. In fact, if anything, the exact opposite. I will tell people that they should come out and vote in as large numbers as possible, because that is how we will protect whatever we can.
But is there anyone that was vindicated on August 5th?
When the land we live in is put to such turmoil, when people are put to such misery, when for months on end children are not able to go to school, traders are not able to earn, communication links are shut off, family members died and other family members didn't know about it until they read it in the newspaper days later. How can anyone feel a sense of vindication? If you genuinely love Jammu and Kashmir, then all you can feel is a sense of loss, not a sense of vindication.
No, because there was a feeling in a certain group of people that this was always expected, that you don't have much expectations from New Delhi, whether it is autonomy or self-rule. It was expected that this will happen one day.
There may be people with that opinion, but even those people, I'm sure, would feel a sense of loss and not a sense of vindication. Yes, they may be able to say that they were right, but I think that sense should come with a sense of deep loss rather than a sense of celebration that, oh, look, I was right and the rest of you were wrong. Because I as an individual have not lost. We collectively have lost. It is as much your loss as it is mine, as it is those who do not share my political philosophy.
So, there is also a section of Kashmiri Pandit leaders who were not happy with the PHGD meeting, let's say PDP and NC, the same parties that they have been against for the last 2 years. And they have also been demanding a separate union territory. What would your opinion be about that if such a situation or such a demand?
Such a situation or a demand is not going to see the light of day. We believe that Kashmiri Hindus, Kashmiri Pandits, Sikhs, Christians, Jains, they are all integral to Jammu and Kashmir. There was a time when I would count the Buddhists with that as well, but unfortunately at the moment Ladakh does not form part of Jammu and Kashmir, even though I believe that decision to have been the wrong decision as well. I would never endorse a separate territorial sort of division for any one particular community. It goes against everything the National Conference as an organization believes. And that's why it hasn't happened, and I don't believe it will. One of the justifications for the revocation of Article 370 was to facilitate the return of Kashmiri Pandits. In fact, very many Kashmiri Pandit leaders before Article 370 was revoked said that the only barrier stopping them from coming back is Article 370. Therefore, now that it's gone, why aren't they coming back? Why does the goalpost keep shifting? First it was Article 370, then it will become something else, then something else. I have always maintained that Kashmiri Pandits left from here because their sense of security was snatched from them. That sense of security has to be returned, and they must come back and reintegrate themselves into Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly into the Kashmir Valley.
Just one question going to the past. Your grandfather was considered as a hero in the politics in Kashmir, like what he did, and then 1975, some people see as a compromise. How do you consider him, since what he had gained
He's
from
my grandfather.
I am pointing about Article 370.
No, whatever it is,
that was lost within minutes.
It's like me asking you to sit in judgment over
I'm
your
not asking-
father.
I'm
You
not
are, of course,
asking
you
about
are.
personal. I'm saying as a political leader.
Even then, how can I distinct or detach or disconnect?
Because there is a sense that the New Delhi is trying to weave a compromise with the political parties in Kashmir. Is it a similar situation like 1975?
No, it's completely different. It's completely different. Because at that time it was one party, one individual who was driving the dialogue forward. Popular public support also lay with him. Today, like it or not, we in Kashmir are a deeply divided house, perhaps more divided now than we have ever been in our past. No single one leader is able to talk from a position of strength, and unfortunately I include separatist leaders in that as well, even though some may disagree with me. So, I mean, the two situations are chalk and cheese.
Going back to your time when you were chief minister and looking how things have changed considerably in J&K now, it's a different Jammu and Kashmir right now. Is there anything that you would have done differently while you were in power? Like particularly mentioning 2010, what happened in the uprising?
Well, with the benefit of hindsight, obviously one would have ensured that 2010 didn't happen. And I'm sure if you were to ask Mehbooba Mufti Sahiba the same question, she would tell you that she would have done everything in her power to ensure that 2016 didn't happen. The benefit of hindsight brings with it a lot of wisdom. Unfortunately, we have not been bestowed with the power to turn back time. We cannot change events that have happened. We can only learn from them and ensure that they are not repeated in the future. What I do wish is that having lost the election in 2014, I had lost to a single party rather than a coalition. Jammu and Kashmir has suffered because of our fractured polity. What happened on 5th August 2019 would never have happened if our voices had not been divided. Even set aside Jammu, even if the traditional areas of support had remained united, 5th August 2019 would never have happened. So I wish that I had lost to one single party rather than a coalition. That is one of the regrets. Again, benefit of hindsight.
Who would you say is responsible for that divided house?
No one single individual. No one single individual. At the end of the day, voters decide, they make the choice that they think is the best one. But again, with the benefit of hindsight, the fact that we have allowed our voice to be divided has weakened us to the point where this was possible. A single party governing Jammu and Kashmir would never have seen this happen. So.
And I just have one last question. While you were in detention, you had grown a very long beard. You could have trimmed it. Was there a particular purpose for it?
No particular purpose.
There was nothing.
No particular purpose. Individual thing. I finally removed it because it became the subject of too much debate. Too many people felt that my having a beard qualified them for an opinion on how my beard should look. And therefore, I kept being told how long it should be, what shape it should be, and all the rest of it. So I finally decided, look, leave it. No beard, no commentary. That was it. It was also a reminder of a very difficult time, which is not to say that I won't have one again, but it won't be a mark of detention. If it is, it will be a mark of perhaps something to celebrate rather than something to feel bad about.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Thanks a lot.
Shukriya.
Thank you.